When you go to create a new file in Showbiz Budgeting, it's going to be important for you to understand from the outset the options available to you in creating the categories. Let's take a quick look in the Summary tab as to where we set up the categories. When you highlight a summary line, click the Edit option, you'll see that within the Edit Summary window, you're able to create new categories. Now when we go to a category, we've got one here for story rights and continuity. We'll click on Edit. You see that you have available to you under the Type drop-down menu 6 different options. Let's take a close look at what each of these options offers to you. Let me exit out of this and let's go over to our Budget tab, and you'll see that in our pull-down list here I've tagged a variety of categories with the different types. The types control the columns available to you for data entry on the screen and also in printed reports. So let's start out with Story Rights and Continuity General. We're already parked here. This allows you to simply enter a flat dollar amount into the total column over on your far right. So you'll see that when we enter $5,000, hit the enter key, it just jumps right down to the next line. We can continue to add figures as we go along using the enter key, and you'll see that these are totaled up down at the very bottom, 11,400 based on our 3 entries. That's it. Very simple and straightforward with respect to the general type. Producer's unit I've tagged as quantity and rate, and you'll see I'm now able to create a calculation here rather than doing just a flat dollar amount. So let's say we've got a calculation of 3 weeks, and these unit columns, by the way, are just text. They're not really mathematically operative. They're just alpha entries, well, alphabetical entries. Okay, so 3 weeks at a rate of $5,000 per week, we have a budgeted amount of $15,000. However, we also have here the miscellaneous column. What this is for the entry of a flat dollar amount. Let's say that our executive producer who's on for 3 weeks has some travel expenses. Over the course of 3 weeks, we're budgeting him for a total of $600. So we'll enter that, and you'll see once I've hit the enter key, that's added up into the budgeted total. So, unlike the general, we now have the ability to create a calculation here. And let's go next to a little more complicated calculation, quantity times rate times multiplier. Let's say we have a unit production manager. We'll say 1 week at $5,000 per week, and let's say we actually have 2 unit production managers on that week making that same $5,000. Enter that 2 into this multiplier column, and when I click in miscellaneous, you'll see the calculation is updated to $10,000. And much like the quantity times rate type, we also have this miscellaneous column. Let's say they're getting $600 a week for travel expenses, a total of $1,200. We'll simply type in that $1,200, hit the enter key, and there you go. It's added right in. Again, you've now got a little bit more flexibility with respect to the entry using this multiplier column. I'm going to jump back up just a little bit to our cast category so that we can have a look at the talent category line type. This is a little different in that you need to establish an overtime base, the number of hours that are considered paid at straight time. So in the OT base column, I'm going to type in 8. In the quantity, let's keep it simple. We'll call it 1 day. And let's do a rate of $1,000. Keeping it even numbers makes it easier to see. And let's say, okay, we've got 1 day at 8 hours for $1,000, and now let's start talking about overtime. we're going to put in an hour at time and a half. This calculation would be the $1,000 divided by 8 hours times 1.5. So, entering a 1 in there, keep your eye on the budgeted total. You'll see that total is updated to $11.88. Similarly, we'll put in 1 hour at double time. And again, once you hit the enter key, the calculation is updated. This also allows you to create travel days. They'll be paid at the flat $1,000. So when I put in this one travel day, we're going to anticipate that this budgeted total will increase by $1,000. There you have it. Pretty straightforward stuff. Moving on to the next type, let's take a look at long form. It's very similar to talent. I've got the set construction set up as long form, and again, we need to define an OT base. Let's call it 10 hours. We'll say that we've got a quantity of 4 days at a rate of 600 per day. And now we can also, just like in talent, we can add a number of time and a half and double time hours. And basically that calculation is going to be the day rate divided by the OT base times the number of time and a half or double time hours. Additionally, we have columns available here for the number of overtime hours and the overtime amount. So let's take a look here. We'll say 2 hours at time and 1/2, and you can see once we hit the enter key, the calculation is updated, and also the number of overtime hours and the amount of overtime pay is displayed. We'll do another one for double time. Again, calculation updated instantly after hitting the enter key, and very similar in principle to our talent line type in the categories. To move on to the last one, let's take a look at the short form for set dressing. This is a bit different in that you're now able to budget a number of days, each of a particular number of hours. So let's do our set decorator, and you'll see I'm just going to add the rate in first here. We'll put in a rate of 1,000 per day, and then do 1 hour, pardon me, 1 day at 8 hours, and another day at 12 hours, and a really long day of 14 hours. We'll spare them the 16-hour day. And you can see that our budgeted amount has been going up, but really the amount of pay hasn't been proportionally, and that's because we need to go to our view manager. What we're going to do here is we're going to turn on our fringes, and I'll show you in just a moment how this works. We'll also turn on the OT amount and also the fringes, and let's see what happens next. We get some additional columns here. Here's the scoop. We're going to have a fringe set up for union labor. I'll show it to you. It's 30%, but look what else we can do. We can set up overtime rules. So I'm going to set up time and 1/2 after 8 hours and double time after 12. So now that we've set up this rule, let's apply it. I'll double click in the fringes box, and I'll add that application of the fringes, and you see we now have 10 overtime hours, an overtime payment of $2,000, and also that 30% in the fringes that we set up calculating here. So, to reiterate, you set it up as short form. You now have columns for day lengths. You enter the number of days at each particular day length, the rate, and then you're able to apply a fringe where the overtime rule is set up. If we go back there, let's take a second look at that. I'll actually remove the 30%, and you'll just see now how much is calculated for the overtime only. Close that out, and there. Thanks for watching.